Hello lovely people! Back in January this year, I was exhibiting at the Nederlandse Modelspoordagen together with the LLMTC and some of our friends from the Noppenbahner. The Modelspoordagen is an annual model railway show held in Rijswijk, featuring a large variety of model railway layouts and vendors. This being a fairly large traditional model railway show means that our layout is always somewhat of an oddity. Combining model railroading with Lego bricks places us in a very small niche within an already fairly niche hobby, so I'm always pleasantly surprised by how well people respond to our layout. The event organizers and the other exhibitors we talk to are always very welcoming and interested, and we even heard from a few people this year that our layout was the reason that they came to visit the show.
Okay. Ja. Ja? Als je iemand je kan varen, bij huren een wagon van iemand, je zegt altijd van zijn wagon fijn. Oké. Het is ook in het droog. Ja, die is wel mooi. Ja, dat is, en die ga ik achter niet lopen restauratie. Ja, dat is een niet lopen restauratie gesteld. Jeetje. Ja, vet. Ik wist niet dat ze zo kleur in hebben gegeven. Ik dacht dat het nee, die kleur is alleen zo optreden in Oosten. Had je die al graag daar? Wat voor lok is dat nou? 015. Dat is DDR. De 01 die daar achtergebleven is, die hebben ze opgehaald.
After the success of splitting the layout into multiple separate loops during LEGO World last October, we opted for a similar setup here, this time with up to 4 track loops. We also split the layout into 2 distinct sections, with a short break between the 2 halves where trains disappear behind the scenes. The west loop features Krokant Centraal Station. Some models are displayed statically on the tables here, where the scenic area ends and the double tracks loop back behind the scenes. We follow a train as it leaves the station in the opposite direction. The train navigates through 2 sets of switches in order to get from its siding onto the outer main line. After passing the signal box, the train follows the main line to the left and disappears through a hole in the backdrop. From there, the trains can keep going left to re-emerge at the other side of Krokant Centraal, or go straight and switch over to the other double track loop. Emerging from under the viaduct, the train is now running on the east loop of the layout. De locomotives. Back at the signal box, instead of following the main line left, this steam train continues straight onto the branch line. This branch line extends a few meters past where the main line disappears behind the backdrop, but soon it too ends in a tunnel. Just after the tunnel, the train has the same choice of turning left back to Krokant Centraal, or emerging from under the viaduct on the east loop. Both the inner and the outer main line could be split up this way, with either one train running a continuous loop around the whole layout, or 2 trains each running on one half.
Zullen we verder lopen?
On Saturday afternoon, we tried something we'd talked about a few times, but never managed to do until now, running to a timetable. Before the event, Enrico asked everyone to submit one of their trains. He then built a realistic timetable for everyone to follow for an hour-long operating session. His timetable included train numbers for each train, departure and arrival times for every train, where each train was going, and what track they would arrive at and depart from. I'd submitted my Taurus locomotive, and as this loco never ran in the Netherlands, Enrico had scheduled it for some test drives and a load test, as if the locomotive was being certified for use on the Dutch railway network. At 15:02, the first train to pull into Kokand Centraal is train number 802S, arriving on track 3. The S suffix in the train number indicates that this is a steam hold service, in this case a charter train, dropping a bunch of rail fans off at the station. A few minutes later, at 15:04, train 202 arrives on track 4. This is another special train, pulling the coaches of the Dutch royal family. Both of these trains are probably here for today's railway celebration, where different museum trains will be running passenger service in and out of the station all day. Of course, there is plenty of normal traffic too. Here we see train 602 arriving from the west on track 5, waiting on another train before it can continue its journey. The watloper is keeping busy with regular passenger runs throughout the operating session, running a passenger service every 10 minutes or so. With the tracks ahead now clear, train 602 can depart.
En alle E-nummers gaan één kant op en alle onevennummers aan de andere kant op. En de S van Sierra betekent stoom. Hebben we dit iets te ver gedaan? Nee.
Back at Kokand Centraal, Tamás is setting the switches in preparation for the departure of train 802S. He departs exactly on time at 15:08.
Moest ik dat doen? Je moet toch alles voor jezelf regelen?
At 15:09, my Taurus locomotive appears on the scene for the first time. I drive it onto a maintenance track just past the platforms at Kokand Centraal as train 404. Here some of the railway crew inspect the locomotive and fit some measuring equipment, in preparation for its certification tests. In the meantime, the royal train departs as train 204 and passes the siding where I'm parked. Another freight train enters the scene, briefly stopping at Kokand Centraal again.
Het is me vervelen, maar ik niet te slopen. Nu moet ik gewoon een heel rondje maken. Dat kan.
A few minutes later, a second steam train departs from the station. It passes my loco still being checked over in the siding and heads down the branch line. At this point it's time for me to pull out of the maintenance track and into the station. I'm running a few minutes late, pulling into the station at 15:22 together with train 303, which is a few minutes early.
Nu inmiddels spoor 4. En die wacht daar dan? Ja, en dan komt vlak achteraan komt Erwin.
As I leave the station on my first certification run, train 804S pulls up and stops at the platform.
Reizigers hebben geen hele soepele reis. Ik heb geen idee waar jij nu bent. Ja, hier. Ik ben op 6 Ja, jij bent op Oslo. Ja.
Ja, schitterend. Hier ook, vind ik ook heel leuk.
After running the length of the layout, I pause at the eastern end of the shadow yard where I have to wait for a few minutes. Meanwhile, the steam excursion train 804S departs from Kokand Centraal. In the foreground, a set of freight wagons has just been dropped off on track 5 in preparation for a load test for my locomotive. The locomotive that brought in the wagons isn't needed for a good few minutes, so has gone back to the depot. The loco is parked in the shed where the crew is about to enjoy a coffee break. At 15:29, I arrive at Kokand Centraal again on track 4. I run past the platforms and switch to track 5 so I can couple up to the freight cars. On track 1, steam excursion train 806S is pulling up to the platforms. After letting all the passengers disembark, the coaches are shunted backwards onto a siding where they will be uncoupled from the locomotive.
Ja, jouw wissels staan nog niet goed. Ik heb het niet tegen jou trouwens. Oh, sorry, ik doe het zo tijd.
Almost 10 minutes before its scheduled departure time, the steam locomotive leaves the station as train 808S LT, heading for the depot to take on coal and water. A few seconds later, I depart on my first load test as train 406.
Jij kan het.
At 15:40, I arrive back at Kokand Centraal. I leave the wagons on track 5 before heading back into the maintenance track so the train crew can analyze the gathered testing data. A few minutes later, another locomotive comes to retrieve the freight train. The crew must be in quite a hurry, because after coupling up to the wagons at a rather enthusiastic speed, train 610 departs about 3 minutes ahead of schedule. With the data analyzed and seemingly no issues found, I pull back out into the station at 15:47 and head out on one final test run for the day. By 15:55, Kokand Centraal has almost fully been thrown back in time. Another museum loco has just arrived at the station with its consist of historic passenger cars. The loco is running around, preparing to take the train back east. As train 112 departs, a small steam tram engine arrives on track 3 with its single passenger coach as train 509S. A little further east, train 310 on its regular passenger service meets the museum train.
Deze heb ik ook, want die stond...
The passenger cars that were previously left on track 1A are picked up by a freshly cold and watered steam engine and depart as train 814S.
Ik zat niet in jouw shot, toch?
Nee hoor.
Ik zag hem net bij het raam.
Having just completed my last test run, I pull into Kokand Centraal as train 412. I park up in the siding as my last train movement for the session. As train 814 heads off into the distance, we conclude the running session with no significant delays. Thank you Enrico for creating the timetable and managing the session. You may have already noticed during the timetabled running session, but we had quite a few different steam engines out during the show. From small tramway engines all the way up to international steam expresses, or long steam-hauled freight trains. I ran my Blauwe Brabander engine quite a bit during the weekend, but at some point the gearbox gave up, so unfortunately I had to set it aside for the rest of the show. We also had some awesome locos from Pieter Post, who hadn't been to a show with us in quite some time.
Enjoy. Duits hebben. Maar wij zijn toch was geniet.
Ich habe mal das länger gebraucht.
Ja? Ja. Dat is ja schön.
Malik also had some new engines with him. Here one of them is shunting some wagons around in Jan's depot.
Ik weet namelijk dat ik straks nog dik 2 uur moet rijden voordat ik weer naar Groningen ben. Ja, maar als ik hoor tik.
Ja, dat is een wissel.
Of course the usual steam locos were out too, like Tamás' super reliable 3737. Stijn's 01.5 in particular saw a lot of action this weekend. We also had a special guest appearance from this BR74 that Nick from the Noppenbahner had brought.
Go ahead and stop. We rijden weer heel veel op de buitenkant.
Wil ik wel graag veranderingen brengen, dus ik denk dat ik binnenkort ook met een keertje iets gaan houden.
My model of NCS number 64 also ran quite a few laps on both days of the exhibition.
Oplet alsjeblieft. Wil de eigenaar van de Mercedes-bus VTP 4.
While we will typically have 2 or 3 trains just running in loops around the layout, we also like to play with our trains a little, by dropping off wagons, stopping at the stations or doing shunting maneuvers. This is most apparent at Jan's depot. A rail bus pulls into the small station carrying some rail workers ready for their next shift. Unfortunately for Jan, they start their shift by having a long coffee break. So as the rail bus is leaving the station, Jan hands the controls of the switching locomotive over to some eager visitors instead and teaches them how to drive the locomotive.
Snap je niet? Ja, rij je maar een stukje naar voren.
Rij maar tot daar. Rij maar.
Ja? Eerst je goed, maanblad. Ja, die heeft tenminste de hoed op. Zit goed. Met de hoed zit je goed. Nou, jullie hebben zeer stemmige banen, hè? Een heel stemmige club is dit. Daar word je vrolijk van.
Zeker.
Meanwhile, Tamás is approaching the depot from the main line. After passing the junction, he reverses the locomotive, pushing his consist of freight wagons backwards into the depot. The depot is separated from the main line by a dike, with a cutting for the train line to pass through. In case of high water, a heavy wooden door can be closed and sealed with sandbags to prevent flooding. Inside the depot, one of Jan's shunting locomotives is helping move some of the cars, while Tamás takes on some more coal.
Je kan hem... Deze staat in het echt bij je. Dat heb je zijn vinger aan.
In the background, Sander's NS 2200 can be seen pulling into the depot, ready to pick up another consist of freight wagons.
Nur gucken kurz, nicht anfassen.
After a bit more shunting, Tamás departs again with a consist of empty wagons. Now that Tamás has departed, there is room for Sander to pick up some of the wagons left behind and take them further towards their final destination.
Nou, wie doet even omdraaien?
Verlassen Sie bitte die Saal. Ja.
Wat is mijn liefde?
A little while later, Sander is departing from the depot again with a short consist of coal wagons. We follow the train as it navigates Erwin's Darwin interchange and heads out on the main line. We're on the east loop of the layout, with Martijn's farmhouse visible in the top right. Just around the corner is Armsheim signal box, built by Nick from the Noppenbahner. The signal box marks the end of the east loop scenery. Behind it is a small storage yard, before trains disappear from view behind the backdrop. Heading west, we pass by Jelle's farmhouse, before continuing into Gerbrand's polder landscape. On the other side of the polder is Sander's road viaduct, and Erwin's Darwin interchange behind it. Past that we enter my heathland and forest cutting. Under the viaduct, the trains leave the scenic area of the layout again and disappear from view. Jumping to the west loop of the layout, we follow a train through Enrico's Krokant Centraal station. After the station, the scenery ends and the tracks loop around to the hidden storage yard. There are 2 main through tracks, all the other tracks are full of parked trains patiently awaiting their turn on the layout. With its 5 different tracks, Krokant Centraal was probably the most operationally interesting part of the layout. The 2 mainline tracks saw constant use with trains running through or stopping at the station, but there was also a lot of shunting activity on the different sidings.
Ja, want het zou mogelijk planningstechnisch heel veel dingen op.
Maar dat is niet voor het label, dat is voor volgend jaar reisvrij. Nee?
Erwin has collected some freight wagons and is arriving at the station. Because he's traveling down the tracks against the normal direction of traffic, he has to pull over into the siding so Tamás' steam train can safely pass. Once Tamás' train has cleared the switch, Erwin can set off again. Tamás continues east out of the station, and at Erwin's signal box turns off the main line and enters the branch line towards the east loop. This junction and signal box mark the end of the main line on the west loop, but the branch line continues for another meter or so into Erwin's tunnel entrance.
Kijk, daar heb je nog een trein.
I kind of want to feature on the booth as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want it for obvious reasons.
We're now approaching the end of the video. As you've seen, this setup was a little different from our usual layouts, giving us a bit more room for some more complex train operations. And of course we took full advantage of this with the timetabled running session. But even outside of the running session, this setup was a lot more fun to run on than our usual double circle, and hopefully that made it more interesting to watch for the visitors too. Thanks to the organizers, visitors and of course my fellow exhibitors from the LLMTC and the Noppenbahner for a great show. That's all for this video, but don't worry, more stuff is coming soon. Back in March I shot a lot of footage of our layout at the Brick Show in Baarn, so that video should be coming out soon. And after that you can look forward to an extra long video from the Noppenbahner LGAKE meeting that took place earlier this month. Remember to subscribe if you want to be notified when those videos come out, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching!